Right now, somewhere in your home, there's something you paid for and never used. Not because you're careless, not because you're bad with money, because the moment you bought it, you weren't really you. Someone else was making the decision, and by the time the real you showed up, the money was already gone. Think about the last thing you bought that you didn't need. Maybe it was small, a gadget, a pair of shoes, a subscription you forgot to cancel. Maybe it was bigger. Whatever it was, try to remember the moment you decided to buy it. Most people can't. They remember wanting it, they remember paying for it, but the actual decision, the click, the swipe, the handshake with the cashier, disappears from memory almost instantly. It's like the brain deletes the file the second the transaction clears. That's not an accident. That's the entire point. Because buying isn't just an economic act, it's a psychological event, and for about 4 seconds, your brain isn't thinking like an accountant, it's thinking like an animal that just found food. Your brain wasn't built for credit cards, sale banners, or one-click checkout. It was built for scarcity, for a world where finding resources was rare and dangerous, and grabbing them while you could was a survival skill. When early humans came across something valuable, ripe fruit, a good hunting spot, shelter from a storm, hesitation could mean losing it to someone else or to time itself. So the brain developed a shortcut. When opportunity appears, act first, evaluate later. That shortcut still runs the show. It doesn't know the difference between finding water in a desert and finding a 40% off ends tonight banner. To your nervous system, both trigger the same ancient alarm. This might disappear. Take it now. Retailers didn't invent this instinct. They just learned how to pull the lever. In the early 1900s, a Chicago architect named Victor Gruen designed something that would quietly reshape human behavior for the next century: the modern shopping mall. Gruen wasn't trying to manipulate anyone, at least not at first. He wanted to build beautiful, walkable spaces that brought communities together. But something strange happened once people started walking through his designs. Shoppers would enter with a plan, buy one item, leave, and come out an hour later with bags they never intended to carry. Retail researchers eventually named the phenomenon after him, the Gruen transfer. It describes the exact moment a shopper's focused, purposeful mindset dissolves into a wandering, impulsive one. Malls were built to trigger that transfer deliberately. No clocks on the walls so you lose track of time, no windows to the outside world so day and night blur together, winding walkways instead of straight ones so you pass more storefronts than you meant to. Gruen himself later grew disturbed by what his invention had become, calling it a distortion of everything he'd intended. But by then, it didn't matter. The blueprint was already out. And it didn't stay confined to buildings. It moved online, and it got far more precise. Every app you scroll through today is a digital version of Gruen's maze, except now there are no walls to eventually run into, no exit doors, no moment where your feet get tired and force you to leave. Infinite scroll removes the natural stopping point your brain used to rely on. In a physical store, you'd reach the last aisle and know it was time to check out. Online, there is no last aisle. The feed simply keeps generating the next thing and the next, engineered by systems that learn, purchase by purchase, click by click, exactly what your ancient brain responds to. This is where a second psychological trigger enters the picture: the fear of losing out. Behavioral economists have long observed that humans feel the fear of losing something roughly twice as intensely as they feel the pleasure of gaining something of equal value. That single asymmetry, first mapped by psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky, quietly funds a huge share of modern advertising. Only 3 left in stock. Offer ends in 2 hours. 12 people are viewing this right now. None of these messages are really about the product. They're about time. They convert a calm decision into a race against a countdown clock that was almost always fake. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. The version of you standing at checkout is not the same version of you making a monthly budget. Researchers who study financial decision-making describe this as a kind of internal split: a planner self that thinks long-term and a doer self that responds to immediate impulses. The planner sets the budget on Sunday night. The doer stands in the checkout line on Tuesday, holding something shiny, negotiating with a version of you that isn't even in the room. The doer almost always wins in the moment because the doer is the one physically present, feeling the emotion, holding the object, experiencing the tiny hit of anticipated pleasure. The planner is an abstraction, a spreadsheet, a future problem. This is why people who consider themselves disciplined can still walk out of a store holding something they'll regret by Thursday. It was never a discipline problem, it was a timing problem. The wrong self was in charge at the wrong moment. If unnecessary purchases were only about the object, they'd be easy to stop. But almost nobody buys a candle because they need wax. They buy it because for a few seconds, holding it in their hands, they feel like the person their home is supposed to belong to. Calm, put together, someone who has their life in order. This is the quiet mechanism behind most impulse spending. You're rarely buying the item, you're buying a feeling about yourself, and the item is just the delivery method. New clothes can feel like becoming someone more confident. A new phone can feel like becoming someone more capable. A luxury item, even a small one, can feel like temporary proof that you've made it, evidence you can hold up against a nagging sense that you haven't. The problem is that the feeling is real, but it's borrowed. It doesn't come from the object, it comes from your brain's anticipation of the object, and anticipation fades within days. What's left afterwards is the same person you were before, plus a bill. This explains something that confuses a lot of people about their own spending, why the joy of a purchase can vanish so much faster than the memory of paying for it. Once businesses understood this gap between the feeling and the fading, an entire industry grew around widening it. Store layouts place small, emotionally satisfying items, candy, gadgets, accessories, directly at checkout in the exact window where your guard is lowest and your wallet is already out. This isn't guesswork. It's tested, measured, and refined constantly because even a small increase in these final impulse purchases adds up dramatically across millions of transactions. Color psychology gets applied to everything from packaging to lighting because certain tones are known to increase feelings of urgency or comfort. Background music is tempo matched to encourage either lingering, slow tempo, more browsing time, or upbeat tempo, quicker checkout during busy hours. None of this is conspiracy. It's published research, openly used in retail and marketing courses around the world. The stores aren't hiding it, they're just betting, correctly, that most shoppers will never stop to notice it happening to them in real time. The final piece of the puzzle is what happens when buying stops requiring money at all, at least not in a form that feels real. Physical cash carries a built-in psychological break. Handing over paper bills triggers a small, measurable discomfort that behavioral economists call the pain of paying. You physically watch your resources shrink, and that visual, tactile loss registers in the brain almost like a small loss of safety. Cards remove that friction, tap to pay removes even more of it, and buy now, pay later services remove almost all of it, splitting a purchase into small future payments that feel less like spending and more like an abstraction happening to someone else, some other month. Each layer of convenience is also a layer of numbness. The easier a payment method feels, studies consistently show the more people tend to spend using it, not because the item became more valuable, but because the discomfort that used to make you pause simply isn't there to stop you anymore. None of this means you're broken, weak-willed, or bad with money. It means you're human, operating inside systems that were specifically engineered over more than 100 years of trial, error, and research to bypass the slow, careful part of your brain in favor of the fast, emotional part. But the understanding of the mechanism is what gives you power over it. A few shifts, once you see the pattern clearly, tend to matter far more than any budgeting app. Creating a gap between wanting and buying, even just 24 hours, gives the planner self time to re-enter the room and overrule the doer self. Most manufactured urgency cannot survive a single day of delay because it was never real urgency to begin with. Naming the feeling instead of the object helps too. Asking, "What do I think this will make me feel?" often reveals that the actual need is confidence, comfort, or status, needs that spending rarely satisfies for long, and other cheaper actions can often satisfy just as well. And simply noticing the environment, the missing clocks, the endless scroll, the countdown timer, the checkout candy, takes away most of its power. Manipulation only works in the dark. The instant you can name what's happening to you, you've already left the maze that Victor Grun accidentally built a century ago. Every unnecessary purchase you've ever made felt for one brief moment completely necessary. That's not a flaw in your character. That's a design succeeding exactly as intended. The real question was never whether you have self-control. It's whether you were even the one making the decision, or whether for those 4 seconds, someone else was making it for you and simply letting you sign the receipt. If this changed the way you'll look at your next purchase, subscribe for more videos that dig into the psychology behind the way we spend, work, and live. And before you go, think about the last thing you bought that you didn't need. What feeling were you really trying to buy? Leave it in the comments. You might be surprised what you find when you actually answer it.